And Prayers by Joseph Parker on thestand.net. Thestand.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR Live Radio right here on AFR American Family Radio. Tim Wildman here with Wesley Wildman. Good morning.
Good morning. I've had my chocolate milk and donuts, so I'm ready to go.
Got
a lot of energy.
Is that what? Oh,
That's what I did, yeah.
So just step aside. Let Wesley talk.
Oh, and I didn't bring any for y'all. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like you intended to.
I thought about it after the fact.
So donut and chocolate milk.
That's right.
Which is a power breakfast.
Very healthy. It
Right,
sounds.
yes. All right, Fred Jackson. Good morning, Brother Fred.
Yes, may I take a moment to wish my lovely bride of 44 years a happy birthday?
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
your bride's name is?
Yep. My bride's name is Susie. I will not give her age.
Okay.
I don't mind talking about our wedding anniversary,
Right, I
but
understand.
you don't give your
Happy
age
birthday.
of a lady. I want to keep it a happy birthday.
That's right.
So
Congratulations.
You're
That's
going
awesome.
out to dinner, or you going to get her a donut and chocolate milk, or what? What exactly?
No, we are going to go out to dinner.
Okay, all right.
Yes, yeah.
Chris Woodward. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us today. You got some happy news maybe in a minute?
No, more doom and gloom.
Okay, all right. Well, listen, folks.
Somebody's got to bring it down.
Yeah, you want some depressing news? We got it. We
Well, it
planned.
gets better as the week goes.
Yes,
We land a plane on Friday in trivia.
Yeah,
But
we
we'll
have-
get there. Just hang on.
We have a little fun on trivia, lighten things up a little bit. All right, so we're in studio here in Tupelo, Mississippi at American Family Radio. We thank you for listening. As we said, we just had a couple stop by from Mason City, Iowa.
Lovely couple.
We have people stop by our studios,
Mhm.
a lot of days, and we welcome we
Mhm.
welcome anybody who's traveling and wants to come see us. We do welcome you. Just go online, afr.net or afa.net, and tell us you're coming.
Mhm.
Call us and tell us you're coming, so we
It's-
won't be surprised, and we'll have somebody lined up who give you a tour.
Put out the welcome mat.
Exactly. Put out the welcome mat. But for some fine folks from Mason City, Iowa, they're on their way to Navarre Beach,
Mm.
Florida, down there by Fort Walton and Destin. Yes,
You
Wes?
can go to afa.net/tours with an S, afa.net/tours, or you go to afa.net and go to contact us, and there's a tab. That helps us.
Right.
That helps us plan your visit so that we can visit with you.
Yeah.
Because if we know you're coming, we'll make time to be able.
And there are
to
different prices for different kind of tours. There,
right.
you would get the $100 tour. That would include popcorn.
Yeah,
The $500 tour, you get to see the upstairs.
that's right.
For $1,000,
Leadership hall.
for $1,000, I'll share only happy news.
Yeah.
That's a high price.
Yes.
But it is a price.
I'm gonna start calling you Chris Plaid Woodward.
Okay.
All right, you wear plaid a lot. Steve wears the paisley.
I try to, our side
You-
hustle
you
is
guys-
tag team wrestling. So
You guys are very fashion conscious. I got to tell you, in the newsroom, you're not boring at all.
well, the new guy Bronson outdoes us all. He's Mr. Suave.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ought to bring him in here one time just to let everybody see his wardrobe.
All right. So, Wesley, you want to tell folks how they can watch on the internet or keep up with us there?
Yes, you can go to afr.net, and we are currently streaming our audio there live right now. Also at afr.net, we have archived all the previous programs, and this program will also be archived at afr.net. Go to go to Today's Issues Facebook page. That's Today's Issues Live Facebook page. You'll have video, and then of course at our streaming platform you'll have video there as well.
Streaming.afa.net. And at our Today's Issues Facebook page, we post the stories that we talk about, so you can have access to
Golly, I write that down. I felt
to the information that we write that down for tomorrow. and bring donut and hot chocolate for the rest of us. Okay. All right, Chris, what's your first story?
Well, it's primary day for voters in the great state of Michigan. Democrats and Republicans are going to the polls to make their selection for who they think their party should pick to be the nominee here.
A lot of drama there.
There is. There are reasons to watch this, even though some people might think, well, what's the point? Trump's going to win. We want to see how much Trump might win by. We want to see whether or not Nikki Haley has managed to gain support. Is she actually getting Republicans to vote for her, or is she getting people that traditionally vote Democrat to side with her? On the Democratic side of things, Joe Biden, of course, is running against Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson. But the reason I
Does
say
he know this?
some days, perhaps. But I think the reason why we should watch it in Michigan, and Fred has followed this closely on AFN.net, we had the recent effort by Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib urging people not to vote for Joe Biden because she's upset with him for a number of things, including the lack of a ceasefire in Gaza.
Yeah. So this is Michigan the only state having their primary today?
Yes.
Yes.
We do expect results somewhere around 8 o'clock Central.
You want to go ahead and call it?
Trump will win and Joe Biden will win.
Okay.
Okay. So you don't have to bother to listen.
Well, the news services do call it 1 minute after the polls close. Usually.
Yeah, South Carolina was Saturday night. I think Fox waited about 15 minutes, if that.
Right.
But no, one of the interesting things in the Michigan Democrat primary today, there has been a big push, as Chris was noting, by a Democrat, Rashida Tlaib. Michigan has a very, very large Arab Muslim population. They are
around Detroit mostly, right?
Detroit, Dearborn.
Yeah.
And they're very upset with Joe Biden because they say he hasn't pushed Israel hard enough for a ceasefire. So they've started this campaign. They want people to write in the ballot uncommitted. Rather than vote for Biden, vote uncommitted. That is their push. But also, watching an interview this morning with some auto workers union people in Michigan, they are not happy with Joe Biden. Joe Biden openly celebrates, he says, I have union support. Well, the two union members that I saw were not going to support him. They're very upset with the push towards electric vehicles. And now the EVs aren't selling, and so a lot of auto workers are out of their jobs. So they're unhappy. So I'm watching tonight, especially for this uncommitted effort. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont has joined that uncommitted effort. He's there in Michigan encouraging people not to vote for Biden. So it'll be an interesting night for Joe Biden and the Democrats.
This goes to the polling that we covered last week where it shows that he is the most unpopular president historically, or at least in the last...
It's one of the most.
One of the most in the last 20 or 30 years, falling below 40% in his approval rating. That was a
Newsweek
job approval.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's been hovering. I guess the highest he's got.
And the
low 40.
And how you get that low is when your own party begins to turn against you,
yeah.
or be in opposition with you, and that's what you're seeing here.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of your own party turning against you, I'll share this link in a moment from Daily Mail. It mentions Rasmussen reports as doing the research, but there's a new poll out that reveals who Democrats want on the ticket if Biden were to leave the race this year. This may come at no surprise, but Michelle Obama tops Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and California Governor Gavin Newsom as a replacement for Joe Biden if Biden drops out. What's really interesting here, I think, is 47% of likely U.S. voters say it is likely Biden will be replaced this year.
Yeah. Don't tell Ed that because he'll start gloating. He was the first one I heard mention possibility of Michelle Obama about a year ago, and I mocked him openly on the radio.
You did.
I did. Yeah. But I still don't believe, while she is popular, Michelle Obama, with Democrats, more popular than any other public figure
on that list.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, probably overall,
anybody.
Yeah.
Because she's the one they would like to see replace Joe Biden if he's going to be not going to be the candidate. But every story we've heard from people who around her, she's not interested
Mhm.
in politics or running for president. But that, things can change, I guess. We'll see.
Just to open
Yeah.
up the floor here, what would be the biggest difference that you think the Democrats would see between Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris?
Is it Kamala or what is it today?
She herself has
Kamala.
said it different ways over the years. Some
Yeah.
people do say Kamala, some people do say Kamala, and I'm not making this up. If you go back and watch her campaign ads from years ago when she was running for lower office, she said it one way versus today.
So I'm gonna write this.
Vice
I'm just gonna
President
say
Harris.
VP Harris.
There we go.
So you're asking me what now?
The different. What do we think that the biggest difference that the Democrats see between Michelle Obama and Vice President Harris?
Well, and you got, what was the other two?
Hillary Clinton and Gavin Newsom.
All right. Well, I don't like any of them
No, sure,
because they're politics.
right.
Okay, I disagree
That's
with
correct.
all of them. Harris is. Do you really need to know the answer?
Well,
to
I mean,
that?
I'm comparing the two.
Harris is awful.
Yes, she's bad.
I'm sure she's probably got some good qualities, but being
A leader of any kind.
is not one of
No,
them.
we get-
Okay, she needs to.
She doesn't inspire people.
No, well, no.
Yes.
Doesn't inspire people. So Harris, no. But Michelle Obama, I don't know. I hadn't heard her speak much publicly. I just don't think she's interested. Don't think she's going to run.
It's more that she's
I
not
think
interested. Not that she's better than Harris
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, among Democrats, they want Michelle Obama if Biden's out,
Gotcha.
and they want him. But when it all comes down to it, quite frankly, fellas, people are going to vote Republican or Democrat in November.
Yes.
And listen, there's a lot of people who are Republicans who don't care for Trump,
Sure.
but they're going to vote for him
Right.
Yep.
in November because what's the alternative?
As you've said, Tim, it's the 20% independent.
Right.
They
They're
decide.
going to decide it.
Yep.
They're going to decide it. The Republicans are going to vote Republican. Democrats are going to vote Democrat. And then you 20% that, or whatever it is, 25% in the middle are going to decide, the independents, the people who voted for Obama, and then they voted for Trump. I mean, there are people out there like that.
Yes.
Sure.
And they basically vote on the economy
Yep. That's right.
as it is.
At the moment that they're going up to the ballot box.
That's right. So who knows what that'll look like? But anyway, it's Gavin Newsom and the governor of California and Gretchen Whitmer. She was mentioned too, right?
She was.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, the governor
Now,
of Michigan.
the media will find ways to say why they should get support because they will point out
Why, who
Gavin,
should get support? The
Gavin
media?
Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer. They both survived. She survived re-election. He survived a recall effort. So the media will find ways as to show why they're a proven, candidate. They've been through this.
Yeah.
They can do it again kind of thing.
I don't think Newsom would be an asset. Nobody wants to make America California.
Yeah.
Huh?
That was what Fox News contributor Joe Concha said last year during a segment on Fox and Friends. He said if Gavin Newsom runs, somebody will make a bumper sticker saying Gavin Newsom will do to America what
Yeah.
he's done to California.
Out of all those people, my own opinion, the most qualified, the most serious candidate would be Gretchen Whitmer.
Mm, yep.
Serious is not a good word either. I'm failed to find the word I'm looking for, but she's the governor of Michigan.
Mhm.
The reason I say that is, she's governor of a Midwestern state,
Right.
Yep.
and if you're going to win the presidency, you need to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, Minnesota. That I call it Big Ten country. That's very important.
The Rust Belt.
Yes, that's very important to win a couple of those, especially for Republicans. They need to win a couple of those. But if the Democrats were to select her, she would guarantee them winning Michigan and probably Pennsylvania. So I think she would be and she would appeal to a lot of women, independent women voters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, but who knows what they're going to. Right now, it's Ice Cream Man. He huh?
Ice Cream Man would be President Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yesterday, President Biden, his proper title, was in New York.
Yeah.
To appear on a television show, and he was asked by the media, "What about a ceasefire, possible ceasefire in Israel between the Israelis and the Hamas?" And he's sitting there with an ice cream.
We have this audio.
Oh,
I mean, it was just terrible optics. We have this.
We do.
We can't. So what are we about to hear?
Yeah, this is President Joe Biden, the leader of the free world, standing there answering hard foreign policy questions while holding an ice cream cone in his hand. And he talks about how he predicts there's going to be a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which they would tell you is news to us. But clip one.
Can you give us a sense of when you think that ceasefire will start, sir?
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend. The end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday we'll have a ceasefire.
He said, "My hope it's not done yet." But so did he put the ice cream away while he was?
No, he was still standing there, and then he goes. He eats it after he.
I don't have a problem with anybody eating ice cream. It's just
That's a strawberry flavor.
It was vanilla, I think. But
he is a big vanilla fan.
But the problem was just a bad photo op. When you got the president of the United States talking about something as serious as war, and he's licking on an ice cream.
He's had a handful of bad photo ops here in the last 12 months, that's for sure.
Now, Jake Tapper of CNN fame did have something to say
What
about
did Jake Tapper say?
Biden and ice cream gate.
Do you have this audio?
I do have audio courtesy of our own Steve Jordahl cut this for us.
Okay.
Clip 2.
Just moments ago, President Biden was telling reporters that he hopes to have a ceasefire and hostage deal in place for the Israeli-Hamas war by the end of the weekend. That's a big announcement from the president to be given in an ice cream shop.
He said it as good as we could have.
If Trump said something like that while drinking a Diet Coke and eating McDonald's French fries, Anderson Cooper and other people have gone wall to wall with how bad it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, both Hamas and Israel have responded to the president's remarks, and basically, to paraphrase, this we don't know anything about this ceasefire, nothing, and Israel for sure has no plans to leave Gaza until they have eliminated Hamas.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
You're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Wesley, Fred, and Chris, we thank you for listening. Next story, Chris.
Well, this is the issue for millions of voters.
Is it?
That being illegal immigration. And I bring that up because it's in the news this week. Obviously, we had the illegal immigrant arrested for the murder of the Georgia student there. And Governor Brian Kemp, who's no fan of Joe Biden, does blame the current president for this murder. Clip 5.
Before that incident ever happened, if the border was secure, this individual never would have been in the country illegally and wouldn't have committed another crime. This president and this, so-called czar of the border, vice president, did not do that. And they were hoping the American people were going to ignore this issue. And now we have a dead young woman because of it.
Yeah, very sad, tragic story. You've heard it. We talked about it yesterday. What's the young lady's name who lost her life? Riley.
I got it right here. It's Laken Riley.
Laken Riley. And very sad story, but she was, the suspect, the main suspect is a illegal immigrant from Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, Fred, you talked about this yesterday, the media's coverage of this, they're going to want to bury this story as quick as they can, the liberal news media, because it hurts Biden and the Democrats, and they can't have that. Mm-hmm. So because it highlights the failure, as Governor Kemp just cited there, along the border of the Biden letting millions of people into our country. We don't know who they are, where they are. By the way, I want to talk about Dr. Phil just a minute. He appeared on The View. I don't know if we have any clips.
We do not.
But anyway, and talked about this and this very issue. But the situation is the news media, not all the news media, the liberal news media, the mainstream news media. There was a couple examples of how they tried to frame this. They're calling this guy what, Fred? This man who's been arrested for murder. They're calling him an Athens
man.
Athens man, referring to Athens, Georgia.
Yes.
No mention of him being here illegally.
No. Yesterday, in one of the initial stories from the Associated Press, their focus was on it is dangerous for young ladies to be out jogging by themselves.
Right. That was the focus.
That was the focus of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Even this morning, buried down the last two paragraphs of a long story, they happen to mention that this person is in the country illegally. Now, the mainstream media may try, but the American people now know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biden orchestrated an invasion of this country. It's really interesting. We've been talking about New York as one of those sanctuary cities. So tens of thousands of these illegals have ended up there. Eric Adams, the current mayor of that city, has had a change of heart about sanctuaries. Now, what a sanctuary city is basically they protect illegal immigrants. They don't turn them over to ICE, even when they commit crimes. Listen to what Eric Adams had to say yesterday, because so many illegals are committing crimes now in his city. Cut 4.
We need to modify the sanctuary city law that if you commit a felony, a violent act, we should be able to turn you over to ICE and have you deported. It is a right to live in this city.
That's 180 degrees to what this man said before he came mayor, when he talked about and praised being a sanctuary city.
By the way, I read where Atlanta and Athens, Georgia, are also sanctuary cities. Did you know this?
I didn't know Athens.
Yeah, this is where they don't cooperate with the feds.
That's right.
And so let's just say that, and that's what I read, that Athens, Georgia is a sanctuary city, as well as Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't surprise me, a big city like that. But this would have meant that even if this fella had been, let's say, picked up for a robbery, he wouldn't have been turned over to ICE.
That's right. Because
Athens, Georgia has said we're not going to cooperate with ICE or the immigration. I just don't see how you can do that in America. What you're saying, you're a city saying we're not going to comply with federal law.
That's right.
Huh?
You're aiding and abetting a crime.
But we have a problem with razor wire.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have a
problem. You mean along the border?
On the border, we have a problem with the state of Texas. The government had a problem with razor wire to protect the border, but yet these sanctuary cities are complete in violation of the law.
Yeah, well, they're saying we're not going to comply with federal law, which calls for the deportation of people here illegally. Anyway, that was Atlanta and Athens, but I think the news media is referring to this man, Elon Musk yesterday, the owner of X, formerly Twitter, and Tesla, and everybody knows who Elon Musk is. And I get his tweets, which aren't called tweets anymore, but I don't. But anyway, he called out the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, which is the largest newspaper in Georgia, and they had referred to this suspect, a murderer, being an Athens man. That's what they called him, and as in he's a resident of Athens, Georgia. No mention of, and he called him out. Elon Musk called him out before the world and said an Athens man. He's not. He's an illegal immigrant, is what he is. An illegal alien is what we used to call. But anyway, we will see what happens. Were you going to say something, Wesley?
I was going to say, while this has been brought to the news outlet because it's recently happened and we're covering it here in Georgia, this is not an uncommon thing for illegal immigrants to commit crimes, even murder, on a ongoing rate. And it's one thing to swallow the pill of it happening on your own home turf. It's another thing when it happens from somebody that you allowed to be here that shouldn't be here.
Shouldn't have been here. That's what Governor Kemp was saying.
Yeah, you can't swallow that pill on either side.
Yeah, and it's all Joe Biden's fault.
100%.
Absolutely.
And now during an election year, they're trying to trick the American people into believing somehow it's not Joe Biden's fault, it's a Republican's fault.
Yes.
Democrats aren't buying it. Most of them aren't, which is why they're wanting to not put his name in the voting.
It's called gaslighting with a capital G.
That's exactly right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to switch gears when we get back. We're going to talk to Houston Parker about what it is like to attend flight school. Fred's an aviator, and he can identify. I thought this would be an interesting change of topics. We'll be talking to Houston in just a minute. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
One of the shortcomings of so many people today is the willingness to work and wait. We are in a big hurry. The boy can't wait to become a youth, and the youth can't wait to become a man. It is an extremely helpful attitude, this willingness to work and wait. Haste trips up its own heels, fetters and stops itself, said Seneca. Shortcuts and abridged methods are the demand of the hour. But the way to shorten the road to success is to take plenty of time to lay a good foundation. Hard work, a definite aim, and faithfulness will shorten the way. Don't risk a life's superstructure upon a day's foundation. When an author told Wordsworth she'd spent 6 hours on a poem, he replied that he would have spent 6 weeks. Thomas Carlyle wrote with utmost difficulty and never penned a page of his great histories without consulting every known authority. Every sentence was the sum total of several books, the result of many hours of drudging research in the great libraries. Michelangelo spent 4 years painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, the Pope's private chapel in Rome. But visitors by the million today still marvel at his feat. Daniel Webster was once urged to speak on a subject of great importance. He refused, saying that he was busy and had no time to master the subject. But, replied his friend, a very few words from you would do much to awaken public attention to it. Webster replied, if there be so much weight in my words, it is because I do not allow myself to speak on any subject until my mind is imbued with it. On one occasion, Webster made a very remarkable speech before the Phi Beta Kappa Society at Harvard. He was presented with a book at the meeting. After he had gone, his impromptu speech, carefully written out, was found in the book, which he had forgotten to take away. Alexander Hamilton, the soldier and statesman who served in George Washington's cabinet, once said, men give me credit for genius. All the genius I have lies just in this. When I have a subject in hand, I study it profoundly. Day and night it is before me. I explore it in all its bearings. My mind becomes pervaded with it. Then the effort which I make the people are pleased to call the fruit of genius. It is the fruit of labor and thought. One minister, famous minister in New York, had this to say, I've been watching the careers of young men by the thousand in this busy city of New York for over 30 years. And I find that the chief difference between the successful and the failures lies in the single element of staying power. Permanent success is more often won by holding on than by the sudden dash, however brilliant. The easily discouraged, who are pushed back by a straw, are all the time dropping to the rear, to perish or to be carried along on the stretcher of charity. Those who understand and practice Abraham Lincoln's homely advice of pegging away have achieved the greatest success. Well, it's a most beneficial trait, this willingness to work and wait. Most of us would be helped by practicing it.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Psalm 139, 23 through 24.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. If you want to send us an email, go to comments@afr.net. The email needs to be positive and encouraging. So just consider that when you send us an email, comments@afr.net. If you're feeling anger for some reason, I would say count to 174 and then email us, okay? Comments at afr.net, comments at afr.net.
Well, more traditionally, just take the 48-hour approach.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
In
Then
sports,
you'll forget about it. It's
That's
not
right.
worth emailing about.
Bingo.
Or just send your emails, your angry emails, your impassioned emails to Ed.
Yep.
He loves those. He loves getting those things.
You got your pen out. We're
he's
about
like
to
a
give you
psycho-
about to give you his email.
About to give Ed's direct email and his phone number so you can text him.
Give him one more minute. All right. You got your pen out?
555-867-5309.
Oh, that's Junior Sample, I think. Or is that BR 549?
I'm
Y'all don't
not
even know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't, but
Fred does. I
This
think
is where I nod my head and
Hee-haw.
pretend that I do. Oh, salute. There you go.
Hee haw. It's Junior Sample. BR 549, wasn't it, Fred?
Yes.
Look it up. It's part of your past as an American citizen. You need to know about hee haw.
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm familiar with
Okay.
the television show.
Okay. All right.
I'm not.
Well, listen, we're going to do a little. We've covered most of the top stories from the day. I wanted to talk about something I have an interest in, and that Kevin Parker is director of security here for American Family Association, and his son Houston. I've been keeping up with Houston. Houston's been in flight school and learning how to fly planes, and I just thought that was fascinating, and with the goal of getting hired by a commercial airline. Fred, I know you're an aviator too, having flown in the Canadian Air Force, true?
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, hey, will Houston come in and talk to us about this? And here you are, brother. How you doing, Houston?
Doing well. How about you?
How old are you now?
I am 25.
25 years old. Now, you've, since you came out of your mama's womb, you've been playing baseball.
Yes, sir. That's
and
right.
February is time to get ready for the season, right?
Yes, sir. Spring training.
Since you were a little kid all the way up, you played obviously high school. You played collegiately at Division I level.
Yes, sir.
And then you played. What do you call that?
Independent ball.
Independent professional.
Independent
Yes,
professional baseball.
Yes, sir.
You did that up until when?
I did that up until September of 22.
2022. So you've been playing baseball for forever. You're a baseball guy, and then, but I guess you figured, what? I'm not going to make the big leagues. It's time to, mom and dad. It's time to make a living. Is that what it?
Yeah, it kind of went a little bit like that. I just kind of was content with where I was at and felt good. Like,
right.
Ended on a good note playing up there. It was a really good opportunity I had, and just
you had a lot of fun. You were a player of the. You made the all conference team.
First team all third baseman. I was an all-star in the league, and it just kind of felt like I was being called somewhere else. So
they paid you, but
right, yeah,
some.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really good host family up there.
You played in Michigan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So they helped out a lot, and they were really very, very grateful.
So you had a very successful baseball career. You had a lot of fun, but then you said, "What? I got to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life, so to speak."
Right. Yes, sir. Kind of. My uncle has always been a pilot for Delta for as long as I can remember. Went Naval Academy, and then he's there. But just kind of been talking to them a little bit about some career choices.
So you said, I want to fly jets.
Yes, sir.
For a living. But so when you decide, that isn't something you just fill out an application for.
No,
that's what I was going to say.
Take a couple simulators.
Yeah. So first thing I did was I did a discovery flight here at Tupelo Airport here in Tupelo. Just kind of got up. I think we went up in a Cessna 172 and just kind of for about an hour and a half.
Just you and an
instructor. Yes, sir.
So you're watching him fly.
Pretty much, and then he'd say your controls some, and you get to kind of feel what it's like to straight and level flight, just nothing crazy. But it was pretty cool, and I just kind of decided then I was like, all right, this is the path that I want to take. Let's see some options.
So what do you do then?
So I ended up getting connected with my uncle, and then one of his good pilot aviation friends, who's CEO of Endeavor Air, so which is Delta's feeder airline. So he mentions a flight school down in Vero Beach, Florida. So and I ended up applying, and I got into the school, and then
When'd you go down there?
So I started in September of 23.
Okay. So you actually figured out Florida after the fact, right?
After the fact.
So you didn't just go down there because it was going to Florida.
Right. Right.
Just kidding.
Right.
It's just beautiful weather down
It
there.
is beautiful.
And that would be one reason to go.
It is very beautiful down there, right on the beach. Can't really
so what do
complain.
you do? So you apply, and they have to accept you. I mean,
Right, yeah. So they accepted everything, and they kind of give you a background of everything, how it's going to work, and then they give you a start date, and then.
So had you flown a plane?
I did the Discovery flight. That's
here,
yeah, and I did that in 22, I believe in November of 22.
But that's
been a pretty big jump.
Big leap from flying a Cessna, 2-seater to wanting to fly. So that's what you're in the middle of, is what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah.
Right
So we
now.
fly Pipers down there, Piper Warrior. We have right there by the factory. It's right on our airport.
So is the process then to get to where you ultimately want to go? You have to incrementally learn different size planes and how to handle them and fly them. Is that what the point is?
There's always going to be something that you're going to learn because, you're going to have to know how the engine works, systems work, all type of stuff because, you're constantly going to be flying.
How long does this take, this whole process?
So for the whole process for the flight school, they break it up into weeks. You'll start in a ground school for probably about 3 weeks. That's what we did. And then, you take your FAA written test, and then you finally get
5
get
days
into
a week, every day. Every day,
Monday through Friday. But our flight school operates 7 days a week as far as flying goes.
How many fellow students are there?
I believe we're close to around 400 now. Some live on campus, some commute, some live there as it is.
Are they in different stages of their? Okay.
There's also, I believe our class in September we had 44 students start, and recently my roommate. They had, I think, like 15, I believe, in there. So it depends on each month. There's always a starting date. Some may come in.
Have you flown solo yet?
I have, yes, sir. I actually did a solo cross country to Venice the other day from Vero Beach all the way. We went right
where
across.
The canals are?
Do what?
The Venice, like the gondolas and all those. Oh, Venice, Florida.
Venice, Florida.
My
yes,
bad.
sir. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just right across the state.
By the time he picks up on you, the program's going to be over. So let's take this serious, Dad.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You mentioned solo. Solo is one of those days you'll remember when the first time you get into that airplane, you look over and the instructor is not there.
Yeah.
You had that day.
Oh,
Ed?
a couple of times. Once on we did something similar to the Piper Warrior in initial school, and then the second time around was on a jet. Flew the Tudor jet, which is what the snowbirds use in Canada. They're acrobatic team. But when you look over and he's not there, you're all alone and you're flying. Now the takeoff is not too bad, but you get up there and you say, "Now I have to land this all by myself." And
you've done it in a simulator, obviously, many times to get ready, right?
Not the same thing.
Not the same.
It's not the same thing, but it feels good when you make that.
Real wind is blowing.
Wind is blowing.
Real crosswind correction.
And you're looking around because there's other aircraft up there, and you don't want to fly into one of those.
China's got those balloons they float over.
Yeah. You want to be
you got to watch out for when you're up there. So tell me about what Fred just described. When was your first day solo?
So we, it was I think 17 lessons in for my private pilot. We, you go up with your instructor, you do 2 laps in the pattern, and then it's basically the instructor gets out, he gets his radio, he goes and sends at the end of the taxiway, and then you go up, and then we did 2 trips in the pattern, and then we landed. So it was pretty. I did, and then
the Holy Spirit.
But
he did have a wee. He was just on the
we
ground.
did 2 trips with the pattern with my instructor. Then he got out, and then I went up and did 2 trips by myself, and it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, like he was saying, the takeoff, and then you're up, and you're like, oh well, I'm the only one up here, so here we go.
Wow, but you got to do that. So what's the next step now? Now that you've done that?
So I completed my my private pilot's license February 16th, and then so now I've started commercial Com 1. So they split up commercial and instruments. So there's commercial 1, and then there's instruments, and then there's end of commercial 3. So I'm working right now, just I have a lot of solos coming up, probably about 50 hours worth of solo time. A lot of cross countries, just flying to different airports.
With a prop or with a jet and a jet?
No, sir. It'll be a Piper Warrior.
Okay, which is prop plane.
Prop plane.
The other exciting
Singling.
part about training too is when you practice things like stalls.
Those are fun.
Stalls.
No, I'm not doing that.
Stalls is when you deliberately.
Oh my goodness!
Approach a point where the plane doesn't want to fly anymore.
Yep.
What do you turn off the engine?
You cut the power and you raise that nose, and depending on the type of aircraft, it does not.
Have you done that yet?
Mm-hmm.
It does not.
Power off, power on, stall. All the time. Power slaps, back pressure, hold it. There's 63.
But for a split second, you go, I hope this plane turns back on again.
Oh yeah, I mean,
okay.
Power to idle, pull back, and then you just add power back in.
Wow.
Climb out.
So are you flying out over the ocean now?
A little bit. We fly over the shoreline some.
Yeah.
It's pretty
what's
fun.
What's the rules there, the legality of flying too far over into the ocean? Can you do that? Who owns that?
It's
well, you have to clear. Everything has to be clear with the. Who are you talking to there? You talking to Fort Lauderdale or who?
It just depends on if you're on flight following or not, which you can get different, routes from different region, like airports down there that can be tracking you on ATC. So I mean, it really just depends. But I kind of try to stay away from going out that far. Just kind of stay on the coast, or if I'm going to a different airport from Vero Beach, I'll just kind of navigate that way.
Okay, so looking forward. If you stay on schedule, stay on track and everything, are you talking about being eligible to fly a commercial jetliner in a year, 2 years, what?
So it'd probably be 2 or 3 years. By the end of this year, I hope to have become a certified flight instructor, or at least have started that process, and then being able to instruct either down there in Vero Beach or anywhere. There's a lot of flight schools or even universities you can go and you can apply to instruct there. That usually takes about a year and a half, sometimes 2 years to get up to your 1,500 hours. And then you'd go to say like a regional, or even like Spirit does offer, you can come to them right at 1,500 hours. There's a whole lot of, you can go to different, you can go to.
I just want to ask you one last question here. Why do you want to do this?
I believe it's something bigger than myself. I think it's awesome, being able to help just get families, people travel,
right.
There's all types of, events that people have that's important to their life, and why not be able to,
right.
be able to help them get to where they need to go and safely.
And you probably look forward to dealing with the Atlanta airport too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's very fun. I was looking at it.
People always say, if you fly Delta, if you go to heaven and you fly Delta, you still got to go through Atlanta.
Very true.
I've heard that. But anyway, well, listen, Houston, we wish you much success. Keep us posted, and we'll pray for you. I know that it takes a lot of prayer, seriously.
Yes, sir.
To go through, it's a day-to-day grind there, what you're going through.
It's a major investment.
It is.
It really is. And I have so much respect for young men and women. It's just, you've got to be dedicated financially to this.
Yeah.
It's a big investment
Right.
that way. It's a big investment of your time. You're just telling us 2 to 3 years. But once you start down that road, it's really rewarding. It really is. It's a lot of fun, too.
It is. It is a lot of fun.
When it stops being fun, you don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
Well, but then we who fly commercially, we put our lives in your hands.
That's right.
And it's so we don't care if it takes you 3 years.
I want the best training.
we want the best training, right? That's right. And
That's right.
We want the best pilots available, to fly us around the country or fly us internationally. Well, listen, thank you, Houston, for stopping by.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir. Thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All the best to you.
That's Houston Parker joining us to talk about what it's like to go through flight school. He's in flight school now. Yes,
Houston Parker's also obviously a Christian too, and so we need more Christian out there in the public workforce, and
right.
so we're grateful to have him doing that.
Amen.
Young Christian serving the Lord, and on his way to becoming a pilot.
Amen.
So that's
Amen.
good.
Thank you, Houston. Appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
And
All right.
It's going to be a little more different than the video games I played, I can imagine. I picked up on that about halfway through.
I put in 1,500 hours on Microsoft Simulator.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And landed safely, right?
Every time.
And if not, you just hit the reset button.
There's an old Nintendo game called Pilot Wings. I've crashed on there a few times.
Fred, you mentioned that is an indelible moment in your life when you go up in an airplane to fly solo for the first time.
It is. You very quickly understand procedures. Flying is, when I was trained in the military, flying is numbers and procedures. Numbers and procedures. You got to have the numbers down. I can still remember the numbers for the jet that I trained on, in that you rotate, you lift off the nose at 90, climb out at 150, you cruise at 240. You just remember those things. You practice emergencies over and over and over again. Engine failure rate after takeoff. Got to know what to do. What happens, at altitude? If I had occasions sometimes, the people that I'm training with, they don't get the message that the runway has changed from one direction to another. You've got to know what procedures are. You've got to have those down. I had the opportunity. I didn't complete the training in the military. I decided it wasn't for me. But I had the opportunity to fly a couple of times in Air Canada cockpits with a person who worked for me. Her husband was an Air Canada pilot. And I was amazed. This is a guy probably with 15, 20 years, a captain on an Airbus 320. And I was up in the cockpit with him. On the way out, taxiing out to take off, they were practicing procedures. Now, these are heavily trained pilots.
Right.
But you never stop being conscious. And what they were practicing was, what if we have engine failure rate after takeoff? Okay, I do this, you do that. You've got to have that nailed down, because there's no time to think. Okay, there is no time to think. You got to have that procedure down so that if you had engine failure, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
One person's going to fly, the other person's going to be on ATC. What do you want us to do?
There's a plan already in place. There's no processing.
No.
And you have to practice it 1,000 times, and you do it every time you go out, right?
You've got to have that nailed down. And when they're on a 4-hour flight across the country, all right, let's do this procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pretend we've lost an engine. What do we do?
Yeah.
And
What
you
about
keep
bird
that
strikes?
Bird strikes. You've got to practice for that kind of. I mean, that is an emergency. Okay, you break the glass, your flight's over. You got to get down, and the first thing you got to get down to about 10,000 feet right away because of decompression problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like the Miracle on the Hudson. I was working in TV at the time, and that was kind of new to a lot of people. Bird strikes, and then you come to find out it's not that uncommon.
Yeah.
You mean a larger bird hit the windshield? Is that what caused
the
the flight?
Miracle on the Hudson?
Yeah.
Captain Sully. Bird strikes.
Oh,
Well, and it was a very low altitude. I mean, it went in their engines.
That's right.
So, very low altitude. When you have a problem at a low altitude, there is no time to think. You just got to do.
Got to look for somewhere to land.
Absolutely.
Well, JJ's not in here, but JJ Jasper himself is a private aviator, small planes, and he had an incident. This is probably 8-10 years ago, where he had to land. He and another gentleman. They were up, and they left Tupelo, and they were flying, within 50-mile radius, just on I think it was a Sunday afternoon pleasure flight. Weather was nice.
I think it was a Cessna 150 engine failure.
Yeah.
And he did the right thing.
He had to land it on Highway 45.
He did a good job.
Which is a 4-lane highway here about 20 miles north of us. He had to land it on the highway at dusk.
Yes.
It was dusk, but he had that very thing happen. The planes and the engines stopped working.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And out of all people,
you got to know what to do, though.
Yes.
You got to know what to do in the best case scenario.
and out of all people, JJ.
Yeah.
JJ Jasper landing a plane on a highway.
I think I was, I want to say I was working like what I call the Rusty Pew shift when that happened. I was doing overnight. It was super early, but I remember seeing on the AP wire that a plane had landed on a highway near Tupelo. And I was like, huh. And then I talked about it with Fred a few hours later. He was like, yeah, that was JJ.
Yeah.
That's all a comedian needed was to land a Rain on the highway.
Yeah, that wasn't funny though.
I will.
No,
That day wasn't funny because I went out to pick him up.
his eyes were about
Drove out
that
there.
big.
Oh yeah, that's a harrowing moment. Kind of like when I had my car crash.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You slam into the back of a
Yeah.
18-wheeler going 70 miles an hour, and you live to tell about it. You don't ever forget it.
There's no such thing as a routine flight.
Yeah.
Something can happen at any time, and you have got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
There's just so much.
I've flown to many places. I've been on many flights this way and that way, but my least favorite part is landing. And I have told a pilot before as I'm disboarding, when you're exiting the flight, hey, thanks for sticking the landing. It's my least favorite part. Like, we've been up here this whole time. Please land.
Yeah. But then when you land, thank
you. Well, Chris, whatever goes up must come down.
Yes.
That's a
believe science.
Yeah,
believe science.
Albert Einstein or somebody said that.
Somebody
Seriously, the most dangerous time is takeoff, right? For most planes.
Yeah, you're low and slow, and also landing because you're low and slow also. And so if you have an engine failure and you're back, saying the jets that you see, the commercial jets that you see are normally approaching about 120 miles an hour. So you lose power there, you don't have a lot of room.
You mean when they're about to touch down on the runway?
They're about 120 miles, 140 miles an hour.
Okay.
And where it gets tricky is if you have crosswinds, and those are winds that are 45 degrees to the runway.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a hobby.
You remember all these numbers even today?
Yes, I've been watching Heathrow Airport.
Mm-hmm.
They have live cameras at a lot of these big airports.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yesterday morning, I was watching. They had a severe crosswind to the main runway, and we're talking about these big Airbus 380s. These are the double-decker bus.
Yeah.
He was coming and approaching the runway at 45 degrees off.
Oh, to compensate.
The runway's here. And I'm doing it with my hand, 45 degrees all the way down. That takes incredible skill.
Interesting.
Incredible skill.
You know that scene in Airplane where he's like sweating profusely flying the plane?
You talking about the pilot?
Yes. Yeah. There's one that would be me trying to fly an
Leslie
airplane.
Nielsen or what?
No, the younger guy. I can't think of his character's name. It's a GIF or GIF now. But yeah, that would be me. I would be nervous as I would get out trying.
Well, I had a friend who was an air traffic controller at Chicago O'Hare.
Wow. Now that's another tense job.
Yeah. I don't know how long he did that, 10 years or so, but he finally retired.
Mm-hmm.
Went to work for Answers in Genesis, Ken Ham's ministry, but he'd tell me all these stories.
Yeah.
About being an air traffic controller at O'Hare, which is one of the busiest places in the world. I just can't imagine.
Yes.
You can't have an off moment or be distracted for just a second because you got all these people talking to you in your ear.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah.
And
so there's no taking phone calls to see what you're picking up on the way home.
No, you're not checking Twitter or Instagram.
There's a great little piece of software called Flight Aware. You want to have fun with it.
Okay.
And you can, so when I'm watching on YouTube live cameras at Heathrow, I can bring it up on Flight Aware so I see all the airplanes, and they have to circle several miles from the airport because they have to separate all of these airplanes that are coming into land. It is absolutely crazy around airports like Heathrow.
Yeah. Did you ever have a scary moment when you were piloting?
I remember one, and it was when I was in the military on jets. And we had two, at the base, it was Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, where the jet base was. And we had two parallels. And we took off on one runway heading east. The wind changed while we were up. But we had Dutch pilots training with us. He didn't get the message. And so I found myself one day landing into the west. This was the new direction. This jet was heading east. So we were closing at about 400, 500 miles an hour. But again, you're trained. You veer to the right. And
he saw you and you saw him. Did he ever see?
I don't know if he saw me, but I saw him.
You saw him and you veered right.
Veered right and up and away. That was the scariest moment.
Then you had to put your heart back in your chest.
Yeah.
Or get it out of your throat.
Yeah,
right?
You have the mask over you?
Yeah.
I was pouring water out of that one.
Oh, yeah, I bet you were. Wow. All right. Well, we'll be back with Steve Paisley Jordahl in just a few minutes here on Today's Issues.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
There's a lot happening around us. That's why Christians need to stand strong on family values and morality. Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Voters in Michigan are heading to the polls today for the GOP and Democratic primaries. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson spoke about the election from Detroit.
We're seeing a steady stream of voters throughout the state. We're certainly seeing the reflection of the fact that many citizens have already voted. But we're optimistic as we see things going smoothly at polling places like this one in Detroit and all around the state.
Republicans are blaming President Biden's border policies for the death of a 22-year-old University of Georgia nursing student at the hands of an illegal alien. National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd.
What we need to find out is, did Jose Ibarra, did he fail to report to any appointment that he had? Did he fail to show up to court? Was there a warrant issued for his arrest? Was he deported in absentia?
An immigration enforcement organization says the brutal murder of the University of Georgia nursing student is just another example of Joe Biden pushing an ideologically driven cause that the American public does not support.
The murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley has sparked outrage across the country, as many Americans say Joe Biden has blood on his hands. The University of Georgia Police Department arrested Jose Antonio Ibarra and charged him with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and hindering a 911 call. Authorities with Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirm that the suspect was from Venezuela and had entered the country illegally in 2022 and had been arrested in New York City. Ira Melman is media director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform.
This just puts an exclamation point on it. We've seen this happen many times before, unfortunately, where somebody who has come into the country illegally, been arrested for other crimes in the United States and been released because of sanctuary policies, goes on to commit some kind of a heinous act of murder or something really bad. It happens over and over and over again.
Melman says this is all about a political agenda.
This is the price that we are paying for an ideologically driven cause that the American public does not support.
Former President Trump blasted Democrat border security and law enforcement policies for the murder of Riley, vowing that, quote, when elected, he will immediately seal the border and begin the biggest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. I'm Chad Groening.
President Biden vowing to fight inflation in the U.S. by targeting what he calls shrinkflation, which he says is when companies shrink the size of certain products and sell them at the price of the original size. Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, however, argues the president's policies are contributing to both.
Shrinkflation and inflation are just different sides of the same coin. And any economist, any reputable economist who didn't get his degree from Costco will tell you that President Biden's economic policies caused both inflation and shrinkflation.
The Pentagon review of Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's hospitalization finds staffers were, quote, significantly limited and had no ill intent. Austin was hospitalized at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in January for an infection related to a bladder issue that stemmed from prostate cancer surgery. The Pentagon had been heavily criticized for waiting to inform the White House, Congress, and the public about the episode. House Armed Services Committee member Ronnie Jackson of Texas says this is unacceptable.
And we had a situation when he was in the hospital where we have a commander-in-chief who may or may not be, I would say not, cognitively capable of doing what needs to be done and making these decisions. And then we have a Secretary of Defense who's completely MIA, missing in action. No one knows where he's at or what's going on. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a danger to this country, and it's a big national security issue. He needs to answer these questions. He needs to explain to us what happened. He needs to explain to us why he has not stepped up to the plate, taken personal responsibility for this, and resigned, because that's what he would expect from a subordinate of his that had gone through this same particular process. Right.
American consumers are feeling less confident this month as concerns grow over a possible recession. The Conference Board said today that its Consumer Confidence Index fell to 106.7 from a revised 110.9 in January. More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Do you want to prepare for God's calling on your life to ministry? Many people have a sense that God is calling them to ministry, but they don't know the next step to take. Here's a step that may be for you. Wesley Biblical Seminary offers a new Bachelor of Arts in Christian Ministry that's entirely online, and it will prepare you for whatever ministry God calls you to next. We want to equip you with knowledge and tools you need to confidently fulfill the calling that God has put on your life. Learn more at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Hey, we podcast this show. If you missed the show and you want to go back and listen to it, just go to afr.net, click on podcast, and you'll see the Today's Issues banner. Any of our shows are available there that you miss. afr.net, click on podcast, the tab there, and then you'll see the show and just you can listen. Tim Wildman here with Wesley Wildman and Fred Jackson. Now Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, everybody.
How are you?
I'm well. You're talking about podcasts. Folks, once you're done listening to all the AFR podcasts, I am listening to the most fascinating podcast right now.
What's that?
It's called The Warrior Next Door, and it's two guys that back at about the mid-2000s started interviewing World War II veterans. And they finally put these interviews, they did it for the National Archives in a project, but they finally put these interviews on a podcast, and they interviewed, for example, a co-pilot of a B-17 that got shot down and spent some time in the German prison camp. They interviewed the first guy to put his foot on Omaha Beach on D-Day, actually survived the war. Now they're interviewing, I'm listening to an interview they did with a German woman who, as a young girl, was in the Hitler Youth. It's just fascinating.
What's it called?
The Warrior Next Door
podcast.
And they don't talk. It's not about the individual battles or the strategy or anything. It's just soldiers tales. It's really, really fascinating.
All right. Well, what's your first story for us, Steve?
Well, they are taking the Supreme Court yesterday or the day before. It denied taking a case. The name of the case is the Missouri Department of Corrections versus Gene Finney. And they said that, no, we're not going to take this up in the Supreme Court. But Justice Alito had to have a say. He agreed with the decision not to take it up for technical reasons. But this case involves a jury pool that the trial was against a man or woman named Gene Finney, who worked for the Department of Corrections. And they don't go into exactly what she's complaining about, except that she is a woman who presents as a man, presents masculine. She's a lesbian, and she presents as a man, and she was inappropriately stereotyped and discriminated against based on sex, according to her. Well, so when they go to pick a jury for this trial, the lawyer doing the voir dire, the lawyer examining the jurors, said, "I have a kind of a curious question. Do any of you go to an evangelical Christian church that preaches that the homosexuality is a sin?" A couple people raised their hands. They kicked him off the jury, saying that you cannot be a Christian and hold to the view that homosexuality is a sin and judge a gay person impartially. So they sent this to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not going to take the case. The case is
You're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court?
The U.S. Supreme Court. This case that they denied is about whether or not you can kick Christians off a jury. It's not about the discrimination of the woman or not discrimination of the lesbian. But it's interesting because Judge Alito wrote this this rebuttal, and I want you to. He's quoting the decision of the lower court, which holds that yes, you can kick Christians off of a panel if they believe that homosexuality is a sin. He writes, the court concluded that jurors had been dismissed not because of their religious status, in other words, a Christian, but because of their religious beliefs. And the distinction, it said, it made all the difference because in its view, the court's view, while dismissals based on a juror's Christian status as a Christian must comport with strict scrutiny, in other words, is unconstitutional, dismissals based on a juror's views are not. So basically what this lower court said in the ruling which stands, you can be a Christian, you just can't act like one or bring your faith to the jury pool.
What exactly, not to take we'll get back to this, but just from my understanding, what would be some reasons or rules that would prevent someone from serving on the jury?
So when you pick a jury, and like Abe would be much better at this than I am, but if you pick a jury, each lawyer can dismiss somebody outright for no reason at all. Sure. I don't like his red shirt, he's gone. He has a certain number of preemptions that they can dismiss anybody they want on the jury. Absent that, if the judge can show that this person is impartial, is not capable of being impartial, then the judge can dismiss them. The judge can dismiss as many people as he wants until he gets, the judge or he or she gets what they believe is a fair jury.
Sure.
In this case, they appealed to the judge, and the judge said, no, you can't serve on this jury. So any number of reasons.
Let me ask you this, play a devil's advocate here for just a moment, because I don't agree with this decision to kick these jurors off just because they have evangelical Christian beliefs. But at the same time, don't lawyers jury screen all the time for all kind of different reasons, including biases that the jurors might have against their a client or the defendant or the accused?
Yes, but remember that a court like this is a government body, a government entity, and the First Amendment still applies. You can't discriminate against someone simply because of their freedom of religion. That's now, if he came on wearing a shirt that says "Hang all homosexuals,"
sure,
yeah, I can see that would be good grounds for dismissal. You can't serve on a jury against a gay person and have that view. Their view was mainstream Christian view, which says homosexuality is a sin, and if they were to probe any further, and these juries actually stated this, yes, I believe that homosexuality is a sin, so is lying, so is murder, so is a whole lot of stuff, and I'm able to judge this person based on the facts of the case.
The danger is you're allowing people, in this case evangelical Christians, to be kicked off a jury just because they have a belief, a religious belief, like that, for example, homosexuality is a sin according to the Bible.
Right.
So the precedent there is you're saying, you're warning against is more discriminatory actions against Christians?
Yes, and this is something that Judge Alito had warned about during the Obergefell
Justice
decision.
Alito.
Did I say? Okay, Justice Alito. That he had warned about when Obergefell versus Hodges was the lawsuit, the Supreme Court case that legalized homosexuality, basically,
right,
and took away all of the laws that punished homosexual behavior. And Judge Alito was worried that religious people, Christians and other people who believe that homosexuality is a sin or they don't agree with it, it opens them up for discrimination. And now this is coming true.
You know, this idea that the secularists, the leftists, the LGBTQ activists push, that Christians, namely Christians, they would cite, are de facto hateful just because of our beliefs and what the Bible teaches about human sexuality and morality is absurd. We don't apply that standard to anybody else. I don't say, because you're, because I don't want to approve. I don't want to. Let's say, for example, I don't want to take my son. My son's my son. Let's just say my son is an alcoholic. Mine aren't. I'm just saying, just as a scenario here. And you say, well, you're going to take him to the bar, aren't you? And I would say, no, I'm not going to. I don't approve of my son's alcoholism. I'm not going to encourage it. But that doesn't mean that I hate him. You see what I'm saying? Doesn't mean I hate him. It would be like saying you can't serve on a jury because you're of a DUI case because you're a teetotaler.
Exactly.
Right?
That would be a good analogy.
Yeah. So the fact, what they're saying is that these Christians can't have an unbiased or can't look objectively at data and facts.
Well, and
because
here,
of who they are. Go ahead.
Well, and also too, so Christianity doesn't teach hate. So any Christian that does hate is
right for any reason
is against the scripture. Okay, right. So that's clear. However, the Islam does teach hatred for gays, and nobody's asking the Muslims, what are you a Muslim in the room? Because if you're a Muslim in the room,
right, you can't serve on the jury.
You can't serve because we read your book.
No, then they would say that Islamic phobia.
Islamophobia.
Right. Islamophobia. So.
Hate you just got me fired up. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, I just resent, and we always being accused, falsely being accused of being a hater just because you disagree with somebody's lifestyle. Listen, I have friends that are divorced for not biblical reasons, and I would talk to them or visit with them or see them at lunch and shake their hand.
Sure.
I don't hate them. I disagree with what happened in their life, maybe.
And depending on how close your relationship, you probably told them that, or they know.
Right.
I mean,
but that doesn't mean I hate them. And it's the same way. But if you LGBTQ, man, you did all you got to do. LGBTQ is disagree with their lifestyle, okay, and you are de facto a hater.
This is
silent.
If you don't affirm
violence.
You're It's ridiculous.
It is.
Go ahead.
This is the same issue that I think we dealt with a little bit yesterday, which is the definition of words. They have made the definition of hate. Mm-hmm. You don't agree. So that's how they define hate. So that's how they can say if you don't agree.
Yeah, that's how they can keep their convictions.
They get to define the word.
They define the word. So there's no animosity. You don't burn with anger. You don't seethe when you see someone. And the phobia is the other one. They could Islamophobic or homophobic. I'm not scared of them.
Listen, I know, and I know,
That's a good point.
Right,
yeah.
And I know parents who have gay children, and they still have a relationship with the children, but they don't approve of their lifestyle.
They don't affirm it.
They don't affirm it, but they still have a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. Are they haters?
No.
Huh?
This is the subtlety of language again. So they define the word hate as someone who disagrees, and they label you with hate. And then they present you to the world as a hater based on the old definition of hate, so that they think that you are some evil monster that wants to take a knife to somebody because they're a homosexual or whatever.
Well, this is what
that's the duplicity. They judge you on one definition and then they present you on the other.
That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center has done. They made a living off this.
Yes,
they are an organization out of Montgomery, Alabama. They're a national group, but they put out a hate group list.
Yes.
Every year, a hate group map, and we're always on it. It never fails. AFA and AFR, we're always on it.
And government departments, federal government departments are using it. Are using that list.
That's the worst part about it.
And companies.
Yes.
We've been Discovery Card.
Mm-hmm.
They took us off there. They said you can't.
We found that you were on the server.
You're a hate group.
Yep.
Yeah.
Southern Poverty Law Center said you were.
Yeah.
Didn't. Wasn't there
Stripe, the credit card processing, same thing.
Yeah,
well, a lot of times these people won't say exactly.
Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they
won't. But they'll cite the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right.
The SPLC, they alone get to decide what's and they're left wing, totally left wing, hardcore left wing. All right, next story, Steve.
Let's talk about Elon Musk. You had a story.
Yeah, Elon Musk. God bless him.
Listen, is that a Southern God bless him?
God bless him. Bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Well, bless his heart means he did something stupid, and Elon Musk did not, and has rarely done things stupid. But bless his heart is a Southern term, code for that person needs sympathy because they did something stupid.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
My wife uses it on me all the time.
It's oh, well, Steve. I got to tell you, Steve, you grew up in California, Colorado.
I was thinking that this
I'm going to tell you what your Alabama wife's doing there.
She loves me.
She says, bless your heart. All right. So, okay. So Elon Musk, is the richest man in the world. He still is, isn't he? Or he's top two. He was until he bought he bought Twitter, and anyway, I don't know. Maybe he still is the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. He's a libertarian with some conservative opinions, right? Well, fair to describe him?
Yeah.
But he's not a Christian as far as I know, or at least not an evangelical Christian or a Catholic. He's just but he is for the First Amendment. He is pro-Western civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still the richest man in the world?
According to Forbes, he is the richest person in the world. As of January of 2024, has a net worth of $226.6 billion.
Right. So he doesn't have to sweat his house note.
I'm thinking he
You
probably
know what
doesn't.
I'm saying? I think,
No.
He can afford whatever house he wants. He's worth how much?
$226 billion. $250 billion is much he's worth.
Wow. Anyway, listen, he has been, that's why his libertarian / conservative positions, Fred, is why the liberal media and liberals hate him.
They sure do.
They hate Elon Musk. But he said, let me tell you what he wrote about this Georgia situation with this young lady who was murdered. He said, he was talking about this on his X account, which is formerly known as Twitter. This is what he wrote. He said, Dems, talking about Democrats, won't deport because every illegal is a highly likely vote at some point, Musk wrote.
Yep.
That simple incentive explains what seems to be insane behavior, end of quote. He sounds like me. Huh? Sounds like maybe he's listening to my show, our show here. He said, this is Elon Musk again. It has become so brazen that a gang of illegals can beat up police officers on camera in Times Square and get out of jail for free and still not get deported.
Yep.
So what Elon Musk is saying out loud, well, here he goes on to say some more. Biden's strategy is very simple. Get as many illegals into the country as possible and then legalize them to create a permanent majority, a one-party state.
Yes.
This is why they are encouraging so much illegal immigration, simple yet effective. I just say to Elon Musk, although he doesn't need the winnings, he just bingoed.
Yeah.
He just bingoed because that's exactly what I've been saying for a number of years. That's why America's really kind of in a civil war right now, because the Democrat Party want to fundamentally change our country. And I'm not saying anything most of them don't say out loud. I mean,
or some of them have said at some point.
Well, Barack Obama said, I want to change the country, change the world.
Transform.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
So much about America first there, right?
They don't have that America last.
Yes.
That's what they want. They want America. But here's the thing. Back to this point that Elon Musk is making. The Democrats want to. Joe Biden is going to go down to the border now. What, this week or next week? When
Thursday. This week.
Thursday.
With his ice cream cone.
Yeah, he's going to go down to the border and act like he cares about border security. First of all, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit here, which is rare for me. Huh? And that is,
I'm not even
he shouldn't be Joe Biden should not be going down to the border because it only highlights his failures to protect our country.
Yep.
So I don't know why he's going down there. I don't know who told him to go down there. It's going to blow up in his face.
I have a suggestion why he's going down.
Why?
Just announced this week because former President Trump announced several weeks ago that he was going to the border on Thursday.
It makes sense. It makes sense for Trump to go, though.
Yeah, oh, it does. But Biden is going down there. He has the mainstream media in his pocket. They're going to walk along a couple of feet of the fence down there, and you're not going to see any illegals. No, you're
They're
not.
already here.
Yeah.
Which means the fence works.
Yes, he's going to walk along that fence, but here he's going to have a little talk with reporters, and he's going to say, hey, I want to secure this border, but the Republicans will not, give me the money to do it.
That's what they're going to say.
He'll be
That's what he's
there,
going to say.
But he's not going to walk through to show you how bad it is and give you a plan of what he's going to do to fix it.
I hope he does, because this was one of the worst self-owns. You know, that description was somebody does something, they think they're making a point, but one of the mainstream media reporters, I don't remember who it was, but they were going to go down and report on the evil, evil wall because it's up there to stop the chaos when President Trump was president. He goes down there, stands in front of the wall, and says, I don't see any chaos here, to which everybody said, see, the wall works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he's either going to go to where Biden's either going to go to where there's a bunch of migrants crossing, which makes him look bad, or to a section of the wall, which makes him look bad. If he goes to a section that's open and nobody's crossing, if he can find one, that's the only thing. But that's saying that there's no problem.
Yeah.
So you're right, Fred. I have no idea how he comes out on top on this.
Listen, I'm convinced any use of the word pathway to citizenship is a non-starter. Huh?
Yeah. They could have tried that 10 years ago.
I don't care if it's a Republican
Yeah.
or a Democrat. Democrats, they really don't believe in a pathway to citizenship. They just believe in citizenship for illegal. If they could make illegal immigrants citizens tomorrow, I'm talking about Democrats, they would.
Apply for driver's
They
license.
would, because then they know all these people would vote Democrat, and it would make, as Elon Musk is saying, it would make us a one-party country. And so I don't know. These Democrats are really they want, it's self-destruction. They are sabotaging their own country.
Yeah, what I just don't understand from a political standpoint is it's one thing to do what he's done for 2-3 years.
Joe Biden?
It'd be one thing for President Biden and his administration and his team and his party to do what they did for 2.5, 3 years, and then start tricking people for the year leading up to the election.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're what are we 10 months out? 8 or 10 months.
You mean for the election?
From the election,
about 9, something like that.
And you're looking, and I don't know what you can do if it's not started yesterday. I don't know what you do to make this a non-priority.
It's the number one issue that's going to cost Democrats. We have the economy and inflation.
Yeah.
But people now, when they're feeling it, seeing it in New York City and Boston and Detroit and Chicago and San Francisco and Los Angeles and Denver, they're seeing what Phoenix and Dallas and Houston have had to put up with for decades. Well, they're seeing this and they're feeling this, and I say give them more pain. I say,
oh, absolutely.
Because
otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking about this right now.
No, right.
If it hadn't been for the sanctuary cities waving them in, and then Governor Abbott and a few others saying, "Oh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Here we come."
Right. Yeah.
All the things you're saying are true if the election were right now, but man, it's like 9 months.
That's
you know
right.
what can happen in 9 months,
well, that's the point I was making. I'd like to see what they're going to do about this in 9 months to make it any different.
Well, supposing a war breaks out and China starts taking Taiwan, and nobody's going to remember the border, and then it's going to be on that. Or
I don't know.
The market crashes, and then nobody's going to remember it's going to be on the economy and not on. I mean, there's so much that can happen between now and then.
It could, but this border thing's as bad as I've ever seen.
Oh, it is.
Or even studied it.
It is
in history past.
But listen, you're going to hear this phrase used, and some Republicans use pathway to citizenship and all this stuff. No, it's too no. Maybe 10 years ago we could have talked about something like that.
For 1 million people,
it's too late.
No,
you how many? Fred, you track the numbers. How many millions have come in?
At least 7 million have approached. They now believe there's at least 3 million
since Biden became president.
Are in the country.
And you remember
somewhere.
We could discuss this later.
It would be 10 million. Let me get that number out there. Let everybody sink in. 10 million illegal aliens, immigrants,
have come into the country since Biden. You remember the first day Biden took office?
Yeah.
He got rid of all the things, the executive orders. He reversed them that Trump had in place.
That's right.
To prevent illegal, to at least stop it to a large extent.
Insanity.
And remember, Biden overturned them all because they were racist. Remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And now he's going to try to act like it's the Republicans' fault.
Yeah.
All right, we are out of time. We hope you have a great Tuesday afternoon. We will see you tomorrow with another edition of Today's Issues.
Well, there's a part of our nation's capital that's known as the Mall, the Washington Mall. It's not a shopping mall, but it's a